Greetings. Let's see here. Approve. And approve. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see here. Add. I'm trying to add you, Steven. Hang on. I'm trying to figure this out. Allow viewers to broadcast in this. Adding. I keep getting an error. What kind of error are you getting? There we go. There she is. Let me get Steven on. Hold on.
Okay.
Steven, where are you? Steven Ramirez. They can't, let's see. They can't join your broadcast at this time.
Steven, are you bailing? That's not okay.
Did he flounce? Have we already had a flounce today? So apparently...
This is the first one through video, though, so points for that.
Apparently we had a flounce just a minute ago, from what I understand. Is that right?
I've been cooking dinner, so I lost. Hi! So I've been not paying attention to the page.
Yeah, apparently somebody just left. Hang on. Steven's blowing my phone up. He keeps getting there. Facebook, can you help us out here? Let's see. Steven Ramirez wants to join your video. Okay. Click.
No.
I'm trying to get him on. Can't bring Steven on camera.
Thank
you. Let's see. Green walls are always more comfortable in this room.
Thanks, Kate. It says love.
Approve. Adding. It says adding, so maybe this will work.
Oh, so M left.
No answer from the live video guest. Yeah, M left. She, I don't know what happened, but whatever.
Aw, M.
She'll probably return.
I hope so.
It appears you're live. I have green screen. Steven, what is wrong with you?
Uh-oh.
What's going on over there?
Brian, put him somewhere. Please put him somewhere.
Who? Let's see. I'm going to see if I can move you to... No, not. What the hell? Why is Steven not able to...
Hi, Carolyn.
Steven, do you just have like a crap connection or something? Or like, what's going on? Like the video guest. Good. We all like the video guest.
Switch to your laptop.
Cheers, everybody. Switch to my laptop.
Your phone was giving error.
My phone was giving error. Okay. You sound like well...
Steven, you're in tech, so you should be able to figure this out.
Yeah, seriously, isn't it what you do for a living? The pilot episode is not going as planned because...
Hut up. You forgot the S. There you go.
Shut up. Okay. I'm too lazy. All right, well, let's get started at least while Steven struggles to get on. So tell us first.
Word simple electronics. Okay.
On the left. So yeah, so tell us first. You shared your first 2 chapters, it was, right?
Yes. Yes.
And this is a novel that you're currently working on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is the genre that you're working on?
It's an adult. I'm playing. I actually just kind of did my outline and changed some stuff like 2 days ago. So I'm also in the midst. Right now it's young adult, and I'm keeping it kind of clean. I'm playing around with not doing young adult and maybe going a little bit past that. I don't know really what genre that would fall under. Maybe more fantasy.
So young adult. So like, what is the general premise? Like, I don't know if anybody for the people that haven't read it. I know in the comments probably. I'm sure a lot of the people in the group have read it, the first 2 chapters. Mm-hmm. But basically, it was, from what I understood,
senior adult.
Was it a high school setting?
It is. It's a high school setting. And I pulled, especially for this first one, I kind of pulled a lot from my life. So honestly, the high school that they're set in is the high school that I went to, for the purpose that explaining where things are is really simple, because that's where it's a real place. So I can kind of use that a little bit better than trying to create places like that, because there's different parts of the school that are going to be used for reasons, and that way I was hoping that doing stuff like that would maybe create the flow a little bit better, especially for one of my first real full-length novel books.
So your main character is hang on, my dog is attacking a squeaky toy. The main character is how old is she?
She is a sophomore, so she would be 15, 16.
And then Magnus. So Magnus is the other. So for the people that didn't read it, the first 2 chapters were basically written from, it's in the first person perspective, right?
Yes. It's in technically 2, because both the male and the female lead, I write it from both of their perspectives, and the chapters have flipped back and forth, which is one reason I really wanted to include the first 2 chapters, because just doing the first chapter wouldn't give you a real feel for the flow and the rhythm that I'm trying to get down.
Yeah. See, I didn't know. So I didn't realize until the second chapter, or at least until the second part of it, that it was going to be like a Baxter. That it was a fantasy type thing, because when he was talking at the very end, when he was like talking about how they're mortals, you know. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of, and so how much of it have you written so far?
I'm almost halfway, and I was farther than that, but with the restructuring that I did, I had to take a lot out. So I kind of set myself back, but this new outline that I did, I like a lot better. My first one was good, but as I got farther and farther into the book, something just wasn't sitting right with me, and so it literally, I stalled out and didn't write a single word for 2 weeks, and I was getting really, really frustrated with myself. So I kind of went back to the drawing board and just sat one night and stared at my outline, and my husband writes too, so I kind of threw a couple ideas at him, and he helped a lot, and I just completely overhauled the second half of my outline. So the storyline kind of ends in the same place, but how we get there has completely changed. No. And I'm also writing this isn't going to be like a just one book. I'm kind of aiming, and the feel I have right now is it's probably going to be more of like a trilogy.
Yeah. Nice. I feel like trilogies are like not the, I don't want to call them the status quo nowadays, because like my work even is
yeah.
But I keep getting these requests. I'm trying to get Steven on camera.
What do you do when you feel a character's not working? Honestly, my characters are probably the first thing that I really fleshed out, even before I had the first outline done. And a lot of them are based on a couple people like that I know that I've met along the way. Even the quote-unquote villains in the story are loosely based, and they're not all based on one person. So there's like a few traits from this person, a few traits from that person, and I really dove into the characters' bios before I really even had a full outline done. And this story has been kind of at the back of my head.
Yeah, how do you outline your characters? Like, how do you create your characters?
I mean, the main characters have been kind of in the back of my head for a long time now, so they really almost created themselves. And while writing the actual novel, I don't do like the free writing, like stream of consciousness, but that's pretty much what I did for the bios for each of them. Is really? I just kind of sat down and I had a really rough outline of each of them, and I just kind of like
So do you have, like, when you're outlining your story, do you keep a journal or anything? Like, you've seen a couple times that we've...
Yeah, I actually didn't bring it. I'm upstairs right now. I can go grab it. I didn't bring it with me, stupidly, but yeah, absolutely. And mine actually looks really similar to what you have. I think right. I don't have it really written out by like, this is this chapter, this is this chapter. I have major points in the story that I want to hit. So, and I think the reason I did that, and because my initial outline was chapter by chapter. And then once it became a dual point of view, it wasn't working really well. Like, I just felt like it was really repetitive. You know, it was this day and this event from, you know, Haley's perspective, and then the same thing from Magnus's perspective. And it just felt super repetitive. So there were major points that I wanted to hit, and then I figured out which character was going to hit those points. So after I was able to kind of work it out that way, the story really started flowing a lot better for me from chapter to chapter.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned in our Facebook comments earlier, like in our private conversation, that the names, I think you said, had something to do with,
yeah,
like how they tied into the story. Could you elaborate on that a little?
So I also did a lot of research into the names, especially of Magnus and that kind of like, I want to say that side, you know, his family that you come to meet and know later in the book and in other books. And the names are going to tie into who they are. It's more, I'm trying to find the words to explain it. Like if you actually looked up the names, you would get a really good idea, or you could get a good idea of where their character is going and what their role in the story would be.
Like let's for example, I'm looking here through it. What's a good example you think? Like if we were to look up somebody.
Romulus is a good one. Magnus, his last name as well that he gives. I put a lot of research into. Where he comes from is also important to the storyline. So the names also fall in line with where they come from. So I think it's in the second chapter. I say that he's a transfer from Norway.
Yeah.
So the names also come from that area of the world and have a meaning behind them.
Romulus, let's see. legendary founder, first king of Rome. Various traditions. So is this kind of like the research you're talking about, like the base?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. So that's kind of how you create your characters, like the foundation, and then you hash them out, like kind of.
Yeah.
What are
I kind
allusions
of
to
know.
this?
Huh?
That's very interesting that you do that.
Yeah. And I really wanted everything to be able to tie together really well and be, I guess, kind of realistic, but also use it as almost like a almost unknown version of foreshadowing.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. That's very unique. That's very unique. I've never like I have a couple characters that I created as like a nod to like I have a character in my story called Machiates, who's like a conglomeration of Machiavelli and Socrates. So kind of a similar nod to, but that I like that how you have like pointed references to different characters, and that's how you name them. Because I think that's one of the things that a lot of people are confused about, like naming people or like coming up with names and stuff. It's not as easy as it looks.
It isn't. It seems like it would be something. We'll just pick a name you like, and it's like, yeah, but
right.
No.
Yeah. Like
so
yeah. It sounds stupid. Like so, I think that's a really cool way that you've, and a really unique thing that you've done. So how long, like just is this your first? Is this your first work? Like how long have you been writing?
I've been writing for a long time. In high school, I was in the advanced placement classes, and we were tied into the magnet course because my high school had a magnet curriculum as well. So we were lucky in the fact that we almost got to major essentially in a core subject, and I just kind of gravitated towards English and creative writing. So I've been writing stories, papers for ever since ninth grade in high school. So none of it's published. This is my full length, really like novel, and it hasn't been published yet. I'm working on an author's page right now that I'm going to be posting. I'm having the hardest time trying to figure out if I want to use my initials, my name, if I want to find a pen name, what the pen name is going to be.
What are your options right now? Like, what do you want?
Something I'm really kind of leaning towards is just my name and my first two initials and my last name. So it would be A.M. Mullen.
A.M. Mullen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I think that's really what I'm leaning towards right now. And then once I land on something 100%, I'll be able to get a domain name and go from there.
Yeah. So this is your first big project, right?
It is, yeah.
How long has this been something like in the back of your head for like years and years and years, or what did
years and years? Yeah, years and years.
What made you decide to finally do it?
To finally put it down?
Yeah.
I don't know. I started it years ago, and it was a completely different outline. It was I really wasn't, I didn't have an outline. I just kind of started writing, and that laptop ended up crashing and I lost everything. So,
are you serious?
Yeah. So I started over from scratch, and the story that I had been writing was weak. I mean, there's really no better way to say it. It was weak.
Yeah.
And so I completely did an overhaul to the storyline and the plot, and really sat and thought about what I wanted it to be. Like, I knew the genre I wanted to write in and about, but I didn't want it to be like everything else out there. The young adult shelves are filled with, vampire and werewolf and, witch and all that other stuff. And I not only wanted to stand out a little bit, but I'm not trying to write somebody else's story. Like, this, I really wanted to be like mine.
Yeah.
And where I'm going with it, and the kinds of characters, mythological and everything that I'm incorporating they're like 2 books, and they were written like a long time ago. So I'm really hoping that I can kind of put a new little different twist on it and create something kind of cool.
So are you staying within kind of the realm of like where I don't know if you want to spoil it or whatever, but like what kind of like supernatural universe are you tiptoeing in? Steven, I'm trying to add you. It keeps it keeps like it's saying adding right now. It keeps saying connection failed. I don't know. Like I keep trying to.
Can you not have more than like 2 people?
No, I mean, every time I've done this, it says you can bring somebody else on.
Oh, Christopher, I have iCloud now, so I email it to my phone, and then I like back up onto my iCloud, so that way, and then a lot of like my outlines and stuff are now handwritten in a notebook. So I'm trying to outsmart myself in technology, so hopefully, fingers crossed, it's been good so far.
Yeah, like it should be. It's Steven, I don't know. Like it's when I click on your profile, it says add, and then it says connection failed. I don't know. I don't know how to fix that. But okay. So, what? Like, do you have any kind of underlying theme or motif in your story? You know, or is it just mostly entertainment?
It's mostly entertainment. You know, I have kind of such a hectic life that the books I really like to choose and sit down and read are purely for entertainment. You know, sometimes they might have an interesting message, but usually not really. I guess if I had to pick an underlying theme for this, it would be loyalty.
Loyalty, okay.
Loyalty.
How so? Like, what do you mean? Is there a point in the story where
there is. There's going to be a couple points in the story, and it's going to be the climax, and at the end of this first book is going to be really the first test of that for several characters. Mainly, Magnus is really the center of that theme, and his choices are going to really make it clear, you know, where his loyalties are and his feelings and emotions and his thought process.
Okay. So what is, like, do you mind, I don't know if you mind sharing or not, what is Magnus exactly? Or is that a secret for now?
No, I can share. I just wrote the chapter that really comes out with all of the information, and it kind of comes to light, at least the quote unquote like title of what he is, I think, in the 4th chapter. So he's called an Ifrit, and it's an
Ifrit?
Ifrit, yeah, Ifrit. And it's from the Middle East. It's essentially like a fire demon. But the kind of spin I'm hoping to put on it is, you know, that a demon and an angel aren't inherently bad or good. Is that, you know, you can be a demon, and based on the choices that you make, you can become an angel and work your way up that power scale and kind of get to that enlightenment, so to speak.
That is a really interesting, intriguing idea. I like that. So it's more like, and I think a lot of stories these days are like kind of moving that way, because if you've watched any of like George Martin's interviews or whatever, you know, he always talks about how like the bad guys aren't like, they don't wake up and say, I'm gonna, what evil am I gonna commit today?
Yeah, you know? Everybody isn't bad or good. Everyone is capable, and there's the gray in between.
Right.
And Christian, what are you talking about? Like,
what is he saying? We all know Alyssa Mullen. Roughly how long do you think it would take her to choke? The people in this group have some
especially
good
Christian.
ideas. Yeah, he has some good
It's not about Bob's though, so
a
points
wide
for that.
imagination, if you will. Let's see. So, does anybody have any questions in the comments? You know, I haven't even really been reading the comments, but so what? I guess like, how much have you written so far?
I'm just shy of halfway. I'm just over 15,000 words.
Just over.
And for this genre, I think 30 would be a little light. I kind of want to get to between 50 and 60,000 is kind of my goal for this. And that's just recently that I just did a little bit of research on what word count some other books, the length of some other books that I'm kind of aiming at.
Right.
You know, essentially I'm just going to write it and get all of my main points down and then edit from there. If that means I have to go back in and add material, I can do that. If it means I have to go back out and edit stuff out, then you know, I'll look at it as a complete work and figure out and kind of go from there to get it where I feel it should be.
Yeah, 60,000 is like from what all the research I did, 60,000 is like the point where most publishers will, okay, that's a novel.
Mm-hmm.
So a trilogy. So are you planning, like, in the book, is it going to like bounce from her perspective to Magnus's perspective, like kind of back and forth and back and forth?
Yes, it is. However, once and now that I've gotten more towards the middle of the book, at the beginning it was the same thing from her perspective and then from his perspective. So as I get more away from the beginning of the book, it's now, you know, you see Magnus and you're privy to his conversations with Romulus and other people without Haley being there. Right. And the same thing with Haley is you're privy to her inside thoughts and how she's dealing, you know, with things away from Magnus. And so different events happen that are part of the plot and the storyline, but it's only from one character's perspective at that particular moment.
Okay. So how far into like fantasy does your story get? You know, like the magic and the, like, how far?
Pretty deep. But it's revealed in layers, so to speak. So you find out, you know, about Ifrits and how he works essentially. But there's also more to his abilities, and you know, and I tie in. I don't know how familiar you are with metaphysics. I tie metaphysics in as well.
So philosophy.
Kind of. Metaphysics is the study, and you can pick a topic. It can be pyrokinetics, telekinetics. It can be, you know, there's a vast majority of abilities that essentially you can tap into and learn to do. And I mean, it's a real thing. There's, you know, there's books written about it. There's websites dedicated to the study of different types of metaphysics, you know, that essentially you could start picking up and trying tomorrow. So I kind of tie that into it, in the fact that not everybody that Haley is going to run into and meet, and not everybody that Magnus is, you know, involved with is necessarily a demon of some sort.
So how, like, when you say metaphysics, what kind of, like, give an example of how you tie in metaphysics into...
You know, like Magnus is a fire demon, so he's going to be essentially majoring or studying in pyrokinetics, which is, you know, the control and manipulation of flame. He's gonna, you know, like Romulus is gonna be, I actually haven't really worked out his metaphysical abilities yet, super defined, but I'll get there. And you know, so he'll have a major study that he focuses on, and you'll find out that a part of essentially an Ifrit's training and becoming more enlightened and moving up this ladder, if they so choose, is to find and train people, whether it's another Ifrit, whether it's just a regular person that has an ability and wants to explore that ability. So that'll come more and more to light as well.
So Christopher asked, "What is the setting?" So the setting is this like this is happening on Earth, like in our reality, right?
It is. Yep.
Okay, so this is happening in our reality.
And I haven't outlined any of the other books yet, but the more I kind of bring in the ladder, I guess, to, you know, enlightenment and that angel title, the more other planes will be brought into the story. And so that'll, hopefully I'll work that out once I start really focusing on outlining the second book.
So it sounds like almost like a twist on a cooler Twilight, kind of.
Yeah, that's kind of where it started, I think. But I'm trying to bring a little bit more, I guess, studied. I don't want to say reality, but
no, yours is more scientific. Like
yeah,
yeah, like yours is more scientific, which I like. That personally interests me, you know, more than I never read Stephanie Meyer's. I mean, I watched.
I'm also hoping it's better written, like from just a writing standpoint.
I never read her books, so I can't personally say
They're not
anything
terrible.
about that. Really,
I've read them. They're not bad, really. Like they're not terrible. I think her ideas were a little lame.
Yeah.
I guess they weren't as well fleshed out as they could have been.
No. Yeah, I don't think you can.
Dysfunctional stalking. Yeah, there's no dysfunctional stalking. And also, I will throw this in as kind of a teaser. I don't buy into any of the plot armor crap.
Plot armor?
Plot armor. So essentially, a main character, you know, they get put in peril and it's a cliffhanger, but you secretly know that nothing's going to happen to them because they're essential to the storyline.
Right.
Yeah, I don't abide by plot armor.
Oh, I see what you mean.
You know, so it's anyone's game. We're gonna go all out.
So, let's see here. What do you think? Like, what made you like even begin to think of this? Like, do you have some sort of
R.R. Martin, yeah. That honestly came to mind, Christopher. And I even told Matt about it in the discussion we were having before we went live about even possibly posting it a chapter at a time and seeing kind of where that takes me. Since I'm about halfway through, I might save that for the next book. I'm not sure. I love that idea though. Being able to get the feedback and kind of
it would be episodic that way.
It was, and you know, it really worked for that book because it, you know, The Martian was so scientifically specific that he had a lot of scientists going, that's not possible, this is though, which is why that book ended up turning out so well, is because he took all of that feedback and listened to it and made the book not only believable but possible from a scientific standpoint, and just with good writing. Like it was just a good book.
Let's look at some of the comments here. Let's see. George
my plot armor is it's or lack of, I should say, is in my intention, the outline and the rough outline of book 2.
What do you mean your intention?
Chris was saying, you know, periodically blowing characters away and figuring out the plot from there. To a point, yes, but I know one specific thing that's going to happen at the beginning of. I haven't figured out the placement. It might be at the end of book 1. It might be at the very beginning of book 2. I'll have to wait and see where it takes me. But there is one very specific thing that happens that will completely change the story and kind of like pull the rug out from underneath the reader a little bit. But it's not a bad thing.
In book 1, you said?
Possibly in book 1. It might be the very beginning of book 2.
Well, that's a tease.
Mm-hmm. I'm not going to give that one away.
That's kind of funny. So when you're writing, do you have like do you think of it that way? Do you have these like high level like points, like this thing is going to happen and this thing is going to happen, and you kind of bridge the gap between them, and that's how you kind of make the story flow?
Yeah, that's really what I try and do. Get to the points and try and have an equal amount of show and tell in there, so that way it flows and it's not too wordy or overwhelming.
Yeah.
The chapter I just wrote, really, where Magnus and Haley finally have a conversation of what he is, and he essentially answers all of her questions, really kind of threw me for a loop, and it took me a while because I didn't want there to be a lot of dialogue, but there kind of needed to be a lot of dialogue. So breaking it up was difficult. Yeah. And I'm still not 100% happy with it, so I'll probably tinker with it a little bit more.
Okay. So how many, let's see, you said you've written about 15,000 words so far, right?
Yes, just over.
Just over. And you think it's going to be a trilogy. Do you think it's going to get to the point, like, and this is what happened to me, do you think once you're finished with it, you might open up like a universe where you could hash out,
Yeah, and I can definitely see, spin-offs from a few characters that kind of get pulled in and kind of sucked into this vortex, essentially, that Haley and Magnus create, and possibly doing spin-offs from there. It's definitely been a thought in my mind. I haven't really given it more than, this would be interesting. I'm kind of like focused on the main story right now.
Yeah. So, let's see. Are you ideally, like, are you trying to write as a writer? I mean, this is just like a high level thing. Are you trying to become a writer like full time? Like that's what you want to do?
I would like to, if I can get this done and make it good and really get it up off the ground. It's probably something I would definitely do. And I don't know if Christian's still watching, but he had a question a while ago about how I balance everything, and it's not easy. I'm not gonna lie, but I am lucky enough during the day I work from home. So 20 hours a week I'm able to work from home, and then the other 20 I work from the karate studio. So as long as I really balance everything during the day while two of my kids are at school, I can get in some writing here or there. But the vast majority of it happens really between 8:30, 9 o'clock, and midnight. Like that's when I really try and like get as much as I can onto the page.
Yeah, it's got to be hard, like, because you've got, so you personally, I mean, you're married, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've got 2 children?
3. I have
Three?
an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and an 8-month-old.
Okay, so that's I mean, that's a lot to handle.
Yeah.
So finding the time to write, I can't imagine. I mean, it's got to be taxing.
It is. It's kind of stressful, but it's also kind of good because if I have, a majority of it, the character is actually right in my head. So it's almost, once I can get to the laptop, it's almost like a relief to get it out and get it, onto the paper and kind of clear my head a little bit.
Do you think it's like kind of a therapeutic?
Yeah, it definitely can be. It's really, my time, and I'm lucky in the fact that my husband really respects that. I mentioned a little bit ago that he's a writer too. He has a couple books in the work, and so he gets it, and he really understands, that's my time. So, you know, sometimes I'll just bring the laptop up to our bedroom and close the door, and like have my time for a little bit. Other times, like tonight, actually, he and I are going to do a write-off, and we're going to see
We're going
to see who writes more in a set amount of time, and we're going to take video game breaks. So,
what a cool
so we'll see
idea.
how that goes.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So when are you hoping to have that finished? Like your first novel?
I'm sorry, what?
When are you hoping to have the first one done? Do you have a timeline?
I don't, unfortunately, because I don't write as regularly. It's really hard. It is. I mean, even at night, because there are nights like Thursdays we get home really late from the karate studio just because lessons run later that night. So usually Thursdays, if I can write it all, it's maybe a couple hundred words.
Yeah.
And I'm usually just so dead tired at that point that I don't write. And so it's really hard timeline wise. I'm really trying to get the story done so then I can start polishing it. So there isn't a timeline really. It's just as soon as I can get it is really what I'm kind of driving for.
Yeah. So as far as publishing, like what are you thinking? Because I know nowadays there's a big, I don't want to call it disconnect, but there's a big, argument whether the traditional route or the self-publishing route is better. What do you think, or like, what are your thoughts on all that?
When I first really started, like seriously started writing it, I had every intention of doing self-publishing, just as a way for it to get out, and into the public. The more and more I write, though, the more I would really love to be to be traditionally published, and have somebody, it might be stupid, but have somebody say, no, like, this book is good enough that we're going to print it. So I'm still not sure.
Yeah.
I might.
Does anybody, is anybody watching? Christian, I know Christian he wrote a really good article on some of the benefits and like it was like the positives and the negatives of doing one versus the other.
Yeah.
That would be a really good reference to, if I could find it. But if anybody in the comments, I don't know, like, does anybody have any thoughts on that? On which one is better? Like, is traditional publishing? Because there's a lot of stigmas, I feel like,
There are. I feel too, like the self-publishing route, especially if you go with like Kindle and Amazon, is that, oh, you weren't good enough to get traditionally published. And I don't think that's true at all, because you can do really, really well with Kindle. Steven, quitter. Jesus.
We'll get him on. We need to get him on here in a bit. I know. It's not our fault that we could only have two people. Like,
Kate, that's funny. Yeah. Go be salty somewhere else then.
Don't feel bad. Like, we didn't know this. We'll figure it out next time.
Christopher, that's very true. That's my concern. Obviously I'm writing for the craft of it and for the enjoyment and everything, and I want it to be good. Fine, bye. But if I do go the traditional route, I don't want to end up, going through that whole huge process and then not really ending up with a whole lot in return, because I'm also trying to earn money with this.
Right.
I would like this to replace, my day job. So you definitely can be traditionally published and make nothing. So that's not what I'm about either. So and I think that's where I'm stuck, trying to figure out which path I should take.
That's a tough decision, honestly. I mean, And I don't know if anybody in the comments has any input on that, but there is. I mean, when I was at it, I mean, if you go traditional route, you know, for each book you sell, I guess the trade-off is they do most of the marketing. You know,
the flip side of that though is my husband was in websites and he knows how to do SEO marketing really, really well.
really,
So and I know to a lesser extent how to do it pretty well and get it out there.
I think
So
if you can do it on your own, then you can make so much more money than you know than if you do it traditionally. Because if you do it traditionally, you're only making like a buck, maybe, you know, every book you're selling.
yeah.
If you self-publish, you're making between, you know, like $4 and $7 a pop, depending on the cost of the book, obviously. But
Christopher, you can't really do both. Amazon, because traditional publishing, the publishing house is essentially buying rights to your book. So
right,
they're paying you for it, and you're not allowed to post it or do anything else with it. And I'm pretty sure it's the same with Amazon Kindle. Like if you post there, then you're not allowed to do anything with it. I think they have a certain amount of time, like they have a time period on it. But they want exclusive, essentially, rights to sell that book for however long. So you can't really do both at the same time. You know, now I could self-publish the first book, and if it does really, really well, a publisher might come to me for my second book, and then back print the first book so that they can create essentially, you know, like a set or whatever. I mean, so that's
yeah.
obvious. That's a possibility. My books would have to do really, really, really well for that to happen, though. So
I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't. I mean, it's all a matter of marketing. I mean, it's just, and that's really like I'm in that same boat right now. Like when my second book comes out, you know, this spring, I'm gonna have to figure out a marketing blitzkrieg
yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, and that's why I like this group. I mean, this group is great that we can all kind of support each other and help each other out. But let's see, what I mean is you can self-publish one book and go traditional with it. Yeah, I mean that's a good point. I mean you can
And it's easier to go traditional if your self-published book is doing well, because essentially you're already proving like I have income, people
yeah,
will buy what I'm writing. So that's
right.
definitely, you know, an easier way to go. So I'll have to see kind of how I feel about everything when my book is actually done,
Have you
or I'm
gotten in?
closer.
Have
Huh?
have you done anything where you've gotten like reviews or anything like that?
No, really the only person that's read, I think, the whole thing, and um, I've changed some things since I sent it, I think, is Steven. Um, and I mean, I know he's not into that kind of genre, but he said he liked it from, you know, a entertainment standpoint, which is really what I'm going for essentially right now, just making sure that the story is good.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, yeah, like I was hooked when I read it. You know,
Thank you.
no, yeah, I like the change of perspectives because I think that's really interesting because I think that one of the main things and this kind of speaks to everything is being able to see things from different perspectives. And
Yeah, and one of the authors I really like and kind of like looked to for that is Patricia Briggs, and she's kind of in that fantasy, you know, not quite young adult genre, and I really enjoyed reading a lot of her books. So
what's her name?
that's kind of where I was getting that from. Also,
Patricia who?
when Patricia Briggs,
Right. Okay.
yeah, she has she's has a lot of series. She's pretty prolific. Her website will, if you Google her, you'll find her website, and she has
I'm looking her up.
a
Patricia.
ton of stuff out. So, her, like the way that she wrote two series, Alpha and Omega and the Mercy Thompson series, is kind of where I really first came across that form of like that style of writing. And I really enjoyed it as a reader, you know, really knowing both sides of the story happening at the same time. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
So,
Patricia Briggs.
yeah.
Masks. American writer. Mercy Thompson Urban Fantasy Series.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. So that's one of your inspirations?
Yeah. I kind of, I guess that's where, as a writer, I would that try and aim for is the little kind of niche that she has. Although right now it's definitely reading and trending more towards the young adults than like the older urban fantasy type.
Let's see. Let me look through the comments here and see if we can find any questions.
Who's still here? I know Kate, Christopher. Who else is still here?
There's been a lot of people that have bounced in and out. I've seen that.
Mm-hmm.
And the good thing about these little videos is that we can use them once they're published, you know, or at least finished.
Steven, are you still lurking?
I'm so disappointed that we couldn't get
Steven. Are you off being butthurt somewhere?
I'm very, very disappointed that we could not get Steven on.
I am too. That sucks.
Maybe we should conclude with opening. Does anybody have any questions for Alyssa here in her work? Because I think it's really interesting, and I think. So, do you have any idea of when you think you might have something available? Like,
well, I mean, if anybody's really interested, I'd be cool with doing a little bit of a polish on what I got and posting that to the writers group or sending it to anybody who's interested in reading it. I'm always looking for, you know, more feedback, notes, whatever you have time to give me, I will take. I don't take things personally. I'm really good with constructive criticism. My real main goal is to make sure that the story is good and that it makes sense. Every time I reread it, I find something that I need to fix. So those are definitely points that I would love to even out and kind of keep it flowing as I move through. You know, and especially even though I reread it as often as I can, I know what I was going for and what was in my head at the time. So it might make sense to me, but as a reader, it might not 100% add up. So
that is the question. It's like I know it made sense to me when I wrote it, but is it going to make sense to them? Yeah, I mean that's great. I would say everybody in this group is good about giving feedback and
yeah,
you know. So, but do you have an idea of when you think like when do you think you'll have a novel
like finished? I'm really hoping by June is kind of by June is if I had to pick a date kind of in the back of my head that's really what I'm trying to go for is by June.
By June. Okay. So you got a goal at least. That's good.
I do. I have a goal. I'm hoping I can reach it. I mean, I'm really working on trying to get more, I guess, even. You know, because I can sit down, especially like on a Sunday where I don't have to go anywhere or do anything really. I can sit down and get 2,000 words out, and then during the week, I'm lucky if I can get 200 words a day. I'm really trying to even that out as much as possible. So wish me luck because I definitely need it.
Well, I wish you luck. We all support you, you know that, and the group is here if you need anything. And does anybody else have anything they want to add here? Because I think what we're going to do now is let's see. I'm here for the long haul for I'm gonna bring Steven on for this second. Well, let's see. I don't specifically right, but I was gonna get drawn into rating it. Yeah. I mean, I think you're onto a really good thing.
Thank you.
I was hooked. Like I said, I was hooked. I'm definitely interested in hearing. I really, really, really like how you've got the characters tied into the whole real character thing, like you were talking about. You know?
Yeah, and with the rework, I'm actually even happier with one of the characters' names that I picked. And I'll go ahead and spoil that. It's Romulus.
Mm-hmm.
His character, I guess the destiny, I guess so to speak, of his character completely changed, and he's kind of like the crux of the new outline and
Really?
the plot now. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting.
Metaphysics for the one. Yeah, all that smart stuff, right?
Google it. I swear it's super interesting. It's
It really is. It really is. It seriously is. Well, that was very interesting stuff. I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you. Thank you for this one went really well. This went really well.
I did.
Let's get Steven on so he can
not be butthurt anymore.
So he can not be butthurt anymore. Let's try to get him on. Let's figure this out. All right. Let's see here. Steven.
Do I need to like log off? How do I?
I don't know. I guess. Yeah. See if you can X out of it or something. Thanks a lot, Facebook. You're so helpful.
All right. I'm hitting everything on my screen. It's not working. I can just force close and see if that works.
Force close. Steven Ramirez. Clicking the X.